Greetings, friends. In Canada, we've had these blockades, which are tied to protests over these mandates. They've occurred in Alberta and Windsor, some other places too, besides the ongoing demonstration in Ottawa, which is not really as economically important as the border crossing by Windsor and Detroit, which was cleared recently. Now, the media figures, the government figures have said that these blockades damage the economy. And we've seen headlines about that. And I just find this all extremely rich. I think that would be the word that some English people use. It's so rich of the government to say this, so hypocritical, in other words, because these are the people in power who largely hamstrung or even destroyed a large portion of our economy for almost 2 years. They closed the entire US-Canadian border, at least for ordinary people. And did that even end? To my knowledge, it didn't even end. Maybe it did end, but they didn't really publicize it. Or at least they tried to intimidate Canadians from trying to travel outside the country. They even tried to dissuade you from traveling between provinces. They destroyed countless small businesses with their shutdowns while allowing certain corporations to get fat. Think of Walmart, Costco, Amazon. They threw millions of people out of work. That's not an understatement. They destroyed the mental health of countless more people. Although it is true they allowed a certain segment of people to do relatively well working at home. It divided society, but undoubtedly this was a bomb dropped on the working class. So when it comes to these blockades, yeah, you can say it's hurting the economy in a specific targeted way. It certainly hurt the profits of a few big corporations, specifically auto manufacturers, and their interests in the United States, which put the pressure on the governments here to do something about it. And that's what this is really about. It's about a few big corporations and their influence. So, just completely hypocritical. I mean, yes, you can say that these blockades hurt the economy, but I mean, that's part of the idea of some protests is to cause pain. That's how you get attention. It's like a siege. You lay siege to put pressure on the people you're trying to influence. So to say that they're hurting the economy, I mean, give me a break. All you have been about has been destroying large sections of the economy and arranging a wealth transfer, largely from the middle class to the richest of the rich, to the wealthiest of the wealthy. Now, when it comes to these emergency declarations, I'm losing track of them all because Doug Ford declared a state of emergency in Ontario, and then Justin Trudeau declared a state of emergency for Canada, which was the same thing as the War Measures Act, but they didn't want to use the name the War Measures because it didn't have the right ring to it. My first thought is that this rings very hollow to declare a state of emergency, because weren't we already in a declared state of emergency with the pandemic? I mean, again, have I missed something? Because I don't remember this ever ending. Now, maybe it did technically end. I don't think they made a big announcement. I don't think they made a big affair of it. This is what justified all of their measures in the first place. All of these crazy restrictions was because supposedly we were in an emergency. And now, okay, whether you believe that or not, now we have another emergency declaration. That doesn't even make sense. You already said we're in an emergency. Are you saying we're in more of an emergency now than we were before? Even if it made sense, it would still be a hollow measure. It's like the boy crying wolf all the time. If people have been actually scared, if you were that dumb to live in a perpetual state of fear for the past 2 years, then are your nerves not so frayed that you can be put in that fearful state again by another declaration of emergency? Maybe. But I think most people are just numb to that whole thing now. But I think The only reason they're really declaring this is to threaten some people who are thinking of resisting, but mainly it's to prepare the legal course for them to get preparations in order to really shut down these protests. They have to do it legally. Even though a lot of what they're doing isn't legal, they still have to go by some protocols to give the appearance that they're doing it within the law, even though really what is in the law or what is not is very questionable. But I don't care about the stupid legal matters, because this is about real power, and getting bogged down in legal matters is pointless. I mean, I don't mean it's pointless to do litigation. I just mean that to think that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is going to guarantee our freedom, and that's the answer to all this. I think that's a stupid idea, because that's not what's going to save us. Just in some concluding thoughts to this video, there's this channel called Clyde Do Something, and it seems to be getting a lot of views. He's a Canadian guy. Well, I mean, I'm assuming he's Canadian. He follows the truck convoy news, and in one of his videos he was pointing out that many of the cops in various Canadian cities, including Ottawa, do not want to crack down on these good, hardworking families, on these good Canadians. They don't want the injection. Many of them haven't received the injection. Guys, we're winning this. We're winning this. The cops are going to turn against these commie masters of theirs. And I just think this is such a boomer take. I mean, this guy's not a boomer, but what you normie conservatives don't realize is that you're obsolete. So these cops who are on our side, supposedly on our side, and God bless them if they are. If they are, then they could be 35% of all cops for all I care. Even if they're that number, they're still obsolete. The state or their corporate masters or whoever it is going to replace them with cops who do not have a problem doing what they're told to do. Cops whose attachment to Canada's heritage is questionable, whether that could be for different reasons of ethnicity or their cultural background. This is something I've seen myself. When it comes time to make arrests, they bring out different cops. Sometimes they're organized differently, and sometimes you can tell that the people themselves are not the usual ones, if you know what I mean. And lastly, there was this giant drone in the sky watching part of the march that occurred last week in Toronto, last Saturday. It was a giant drone watching us for at least part of the march, and it may have just been around Queen's Park, I'm not sure. But the march concluded, and there was kind of like a dance party going on. It was kind of silly, but there were a few hundred people there at the end. There had been thousands, but at the very end there's like maybe a couple hundred people dancing, and they've got a DJ, and then for over an hour, like an hour and a half, there's this giant insectoid machine hovering not that far away in the sky, and it was enormous. Like, it must, because I've seen different drones, and I think if this thing was right in front of me, I estimate it would have been about 1.5 feet at least tall. And I looked up pictures. I think I've seen, it's like a standard police drone. I think one of these images here describes it more or less accurately. And it was just hanging out there. And I mean, I can't say for sure whether it was the Canadian Security Services or the police using it. But why? Because, people use drones on the march, but not a drone like that, of that caliber. And not something that's just a ways off, but still there, suspiciously just hanging there for like an hour and a half, not moving. This is surveilling us, and other people could see it too, and everyone's dancing and having a good time, and this thing is just watching you, scanning your face. It really killed the mood for me. Not that I was there to really party, but it really made me unsettled. And can't we shoot a laser at it or something? Can't we? there's got to be some measures. Again, I don't want to advocate anything illegal, and I don't. I'm just saying, what a pity. What a pity. Something can't be done about this issue. At least it's something you got to be more aware of. Hasta luego, amigos.